Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. A Hive Mind's Opinion on Humans, written by Zach the Master. We are the Yogeria, the Hive Mind, as the individuals call it. We are the oldest, wisest, and most powerful being in the galaxy. We believe that it is best for the individuals to join the mind, or form their own mind. Some accepted the invitation to perfection. Most fight back, but they join with enough force. That was how all species we came across reacted, until we found the humans. Humans weren't the strongest, smartest, or most long-lived individuals. Perfectly average. That wasn't a problem. Following tradition, we sent autonomous drones to introduce ourselves and invite them to join the Yogeria. The drones never came back. Now, this wasn't the first time they didn't return. Other individuals have been hostile before. We just assumed that these humans would put up a fight. Second invitation drones were sent, with combat drones in case the humans attacked. These drones did come back, however, with news the Yogeria had never seen before. The first drones weren't dead. They escaped the mind. This has never happened before. We didn't know how to react, so we sent more drones to learn what truly happened. Roughly half the drones were disconnected from the mind. We sent in a fleet to eliminate the threat. The combat drones became individuals, and the fleet was destroyed by infighting. We decided to ignore the humans. They were a disease to the Yogeria, but they lacked the knowledge of space travel to reach us. And the rogue drones didn't have the information needed to go on the attack. The humans will be contained. That was until the human satellite landed on one of our planets. We lost contact one cycle later. We don't know what happened. The only information the Yogeria received was a little bit of human culture. They're so creative. Humans aren't the strongest, smartest species, but they have something no other species, Yogeria, I have ever seen before. They love their individuality. All other species beforehand at least understood the importance of unity. If they didn't join us, they would have formed a mind of their own. Humans can't make a hive mind, even if they tried. They're too different. We fear what will happen if they make it out of their solar system, but I secretly hope they do. End of story. Story number 2. The Second Worst Sound, written by AC1308. Do you know what the second worst sound you can hear in a spacesuit? Let me tell you a story. This happened back when we were all still constructing L5 Megaplex, long before it was sealed and aired up. I'd been in orbital construction for almost the day it became a thing, so I ended up as a leading hand. We had construction going on 24/7, with 3 rotating crews, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. I was a part of Alpha Crew. We were using a Stillwell variant of the Borden EVA suit, simplified for ease of use. It was basically a bag of air that was cinched at places so that we could bend our arms and legs, and with a radio that transmitted non-stop from the moment you put on the helmet. Even if we ran out of oxygen, the suit itself held a good 10 minutes worth of air. This had saved more lives than I could count back in the day. The very worst sound that you can hear in a spacesuit is a hissing of escaping air. It echoes weirdly, but you always recognize it immediately, and you can tell where it's coming from, because there's a cold feeling in that area. Not from the cold of space. Anyone who uses that term has never gone off planet. but from a drop in temperature associated with lowering of pressure. Pure physics. If you hear that noise, you've got between 10 seconds and a minute to get into pressure, or to get a buddy with a patch to slap it over your leak. We all carry patches all the time, despite the fact that we couldn't reach 70% of the vulnerable areas on our own suits. Your patches could save someone else's life. I had occasion to use mine on more than one occasion, and I was damn glad that I'd made sure that they were there. What's this got to do with the second worst sound that you can hear in a spacesuit? I'm getting to that. On every work crew, everywhere, you've got jerks. You know the one I'm talking about, that guy. The one who gets on everyone's nerves but doesn't cause quite enough discord to warrant firing him. It didn't help that we had a pit bull for a union rep at the time, working construction at a Lagrange point has a huge boost to the paycheck, and he was bound and determined to make sure nobody got fired without absolute vacuum-tight reason. Useful to the rest of us most of the time, but just this once we'd have been delighted if he looked the other way for a while. On Alpha Crew, the jerks were, well, he was still around, so let's call him Lenny. Lenny was a friendly guy, liked to get along with everyone. That was actually part of the psych profile to work deep space orbital construction. We were packed together like sardines when off-ship, so we couldn't have any grumpy loners. But Lenny was a backslapper, everybody's best buddy. The trouble was, he also liked a little excitement, and he liked to prank people. He always passed it off as just joking, but the look in his eyes made it clear that to him it was a subtle dominance game. If he could pull off a practical joke on someone, he'd won. The worst bit was, every month we could each order one item from Earth, massing exactly 1,000 grams or less. So every month, he'd have a new practical joke ready to play on us. Most of the guys on the crew weren't on their guard, and all their vigilance was spent watching their backs out in zero pressure, making sure that one of those big girders didn't pop their suits open like a jetty donut the moment of inattention. Everyone has seen stuff like that happen, or knows someone who has. You spend a shift with your head on a swivel, so when you get back to pressure again, all you want to do is relax. It was a perfect hunter ground for Lenny. Once every rest period, or maybe two, you would hear cursing coming from one guy or another who'd been caught out with something minor, and Lenny was always right there, grinning and talking 19 to the dozen. Half the time, he didn't even deny it, and half the time he was caught, he talked the victim around to being a buddy again. Everyone had a sociable personality, after all, and he was more social than most. But then there was Tam. I was never quite sure where Tam's family originally came from. He was little on the swarthy side, but that could have made him an Inuit or a Filipino or even a Maori. Nobody asked, and he didn't volunteer the information. He was friendly enough. I got along with him quite well, but he had a quiet nature, and apparently he was an absolute prodigy when it came to avoiding being pranked. Lenny tried. Oh, how he tried. But no matter how he attempted to set Tam up, the slender young man never quite fell for the trick, or had a spare towel, or whatever. After a while, it became obvious that Lenny was getting more and more aggravated by his repeated failures. And then the normally reticent Tam made an error of judgment. His birthday was coming up, it seemed, and he was getting his favorite dessert sent up in a monthly delivery, made over into a squeeze tubes that we all used for food. Breaking the habit he maintained thus far, he confided with more than a few of us that he'd been missing food from home, and how much he was going to enjoy his birthday. You can guess what happened next. Lenny learned about this, and by one means or another, he managed to get his hands on the shipment before the rest of us. By the time Tam got his package, it contained basic everyday squeeze tube, not the special dessert he'd been sent. The look of dismay on his face when he tasted the contents was almost comical. And then he turned to look at Lenny, who had just pulled out a different-looking tube. "Lenny, you should give that back to me," Tam said. "It's mine. Looks like mine, buddy. Lenny knew Tam wasn't going to physically attack him. That would be grounds for instant dismissal from the crew. He twisted the cap off to taste the contents. Damn, that is nice. Do not eat that, Lenny, Tam warned. You should not be eating that. Give it back to me. Think I'll have some more of my dessert, Lenny decided, and sucked down almost half the tube in one swallow. God damn, that's good. I'd been in another part of the barrack satellite, and I entered the common room just in time to see and hear this bit. Looking at the attitudes of the two men and the triumphant look on Eddie's face, I connected the dots at a moment. Lenny, I said flatly, hand it over now, or I will be putting your name for theft. Then he rolled his eyes. Yes, Dad, he said mockingly, putting the lid back on the tube, and he tossed it towards Tam. I was done with it anyway. He left the compartment, and I went to Tam. The young man was looking at the depleted tube in his hand, and with an unbearable expression on his face. Hey, I said, you okay? He raised his head to look at me. My sister made this for me, he said flatly, for my birthday. Lenny really should not have eaten it. I told him not to eat it. I took a deep breath. If you want to put in a complaint about him, I will consign it, but you will not take matters into your own hands. Am I understood? Having a grudge on a groundside worksite would be bad enough. If two guys working orbital construction decided that they had one another at any time, people could die. He shook his head. No, I'm not the vengeful sort of person. I wash my hands of him. Let karma do what she will. Which lined up with what I knew of him. All the same, I made a mental note to have him swap with Davidson from Bravo crew for a week or so, until whatever temper he had cooled down. It was natural to feel anger about that sort of thing, but in the long run, what did it matter? I'd almost forgotten about the incident when Alpha crew went out and shifted next. Lenny was right there alongside them, making jokes and pulling his weight. I had to give that to the man. Prankster or not, he could do a full shift of work. But then, just as I was passing on instructions to where to swing girder G38, I heard an odd sound over the radio. I frowned, trying to figure out what I'd heard. Lenny, what was that? Sounded like a malfunctioning pressure valve. Nothing, he said shortly. I'm good. Then I heard the noise again, louder and more protracted. It was both familiar and alien. I'd heard sounds exactly like it, back on Earth, but never in tightly packed canister that served for the construction of barracks. All fuel tubes were specifically formulated to minimize bacterial gas production in the gut, for obvious reasons. A few minutes passed, then it started up again. By now, everyone else had started to pay attention, and cross-chatter was building up. By contrast, Lenny was saying nothing verbally, but he was starting to emulate a faulty internal combustion engine attempting to start on a cold morning. That is, lots of minor eruptions and explosions. I don't know who started laughing, but it was contagious. In seconds, the whole crew was helpless with mirth. The only two people not laughing were Lenny and me. I had no choice but to call tools down. Nobody was paying attention, and Lenny seemed to be building pressure rather than releasing it. Everyone stay exactly where you are. Lenny, with me. I guided the stricken worker back into the pressure, accompanied by an ongoing chorus from his radio. It was lucky that the Stillwell variant prevents the user from removing the helmet while there's pressure mismatch, or Lenny may well have attempted to do that before the airlock finished equalizing. As it was, when he did remove the helmet to take a deep breath of air, I had to step back from the stench that gusted up from the neck of his suit. The air contamination alarm kit nearby began to shrill. I snapped a mute button on it. I got him down to sickbay, where the medic put him an air mask and examined him, and prescribed a treatment that would calm the ongoing chaos in his guts. In the meantime, he was going to be quarantined from the rest of us, at least until he ceased producing noxious gas. Afterwards, I confronted Tam. You said you would do nothing to him, I stated. What happened to him was hardly nothing. When you spoke to me, I promised to do nothing, Tam countered, and I did nothing. What happened to him was a result of what he'd done earlier. The pieces fell into place with a clang like a clumsy docking operation. The tube! Whatever was in it disagreed with him. He nodded earnestly. I told him not to eat it, several times. Cynically, I raised an eyebrow. You knew that would egg him on. He looked back at me innocently. I knew no such thing. And, where is the tube now? I asked. I recycled it, he replied. My sister is sending me another one. Of course he had. And I would have bet my life savings that this one would be perfectly normal. A tidbit popped up in my head from the conversation I had with him. This would be your sister, the biochemist. Why, yes, he said. Why do you ask? I shook my head. No reason. Leaving him to it, I headed back to my office. When Lenny came out of quarantine, he put in the request to transfer to L4 operation. This didn't surprise me much, especially as I knew the inside of his helmet had been papered with air fresheners for him to find when he went back to his locker. It appeared the prankster couldn't take a joke at his own expense. L5 was finished on schedule, and Tam went back down to Earth. I encountered him again from time to time. We reminisce about L5, but never about Lenny. But to answer the question, what's the second worst sound that you can hear in a spacesuit? It's not the noise of escaping air. It's the noise of escaping gas. End of story. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Pudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Athelia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.